This is John Hucker, the president of the Swiss Finance and Technology Association. I'm happy to be coming to you today with our first interview series. We hope to do this more often. With us today, I'm pleased to introduce Olga Feldmeier from Smart Valor and Daniel Diemers from PwC Strategy & I wanted to ask you first, Olga, what have you seen that's changed in the last couple of years, especially in the blockchain community here?
Well, John, we have to accept, the fact that technology is evolving very fast, and this is what we experienced here. More and more startups are coming into the space, and especially here in Switzerland, we've seen incredible development. Companies from even Silicon Valley are coming to Switzerland to try to establish them here. One of the examples that was very much in the press and everywhere here in Switzerland is a company named Xapo, where I was leading the establishment as a commercial managing partner. And you see, blockchain, a lot of blockchain business is actually around fintech, financial services, right? And Xapo was a good example how we've seen that, regulator is ready to help and to support it. And in that field, regulatory openness is one of the key factors.
To use a bit of a Swiss analogy, it's a bit like once you get over the Alps, you finally made it to the other side, and it's incredible the story that Xapo really led the way with. Danny, to I guess dive into your consulting experience, you've seen quite a few things develop over the last 2 years. Can you give some insights?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you remember 3-4 years ago, I think blockchain was not really prominent in Switzerland. I think we need to really acknowledge that the Crypto Valley Switzerland as a brand, how it has carried now all over the world. I mean, everyone knows about it. So doing a great job. Also, the Swiss Bitcoin Association has really put us on the map. So I think by now, as an achievement, we're really strong blockchain, crypto. I think people outside will look to Switzerland and think this is a great place for ICOs, blockchain, cryptocurrencies. So that's a great achievement. We should be very proud of that.
Excellent. Well, maybe you can lead right into the next question then. I wanted to ask, what are really the hot topics? Because, we've heard of Crypto Valley, there's a buzz going around, people from abroad are coming to visit Switzerland. What are the 2 or 3 main topics? Maybe you could give us 1 or 2.
Well, I mean, blockchain is really getting out of the lab right now, right? So there was this phase of proof of concepts and use cases and all that, and now we're seeing first applications, pilots running. It's not just a financial services topic. You see blockchain applications, of course, in other industries. And I think we're now at the stage where even large incumbents, large companies realize this is something we need to look at. So I know as a strategy consultant, that's super exciting, but I think for everyone working in and around blockchain or cryptocurrencies, it's a very exciting time.
Great. Olga, what are the things that you really see going on in the blockchain community that are exciting you?
Well, apart from Bitcoin establishing itself more and more as an investment and railways for payment, alternative railways, we see currently, the phenomenon of ICO, initial coin offering.
I've heard of that.
And a lot of people are a little bit skeptical about it. There are also good reasons for that. But you need to see a broader picture, right? What is behind the ICO is basically, not just creation of the completely new asset class, crypto assets, right? But also, the disruptions that it's going to bring in a lot of fields, such as venture capital,
right,
investment, and so on. For example, currently we've seen such a huge amounts of money raised, for blockchain-based projects that it's actually overtaken, VC as an industry, right? And that is, where we started the conversation about is that kind of the disruption for disruptors. Is VC industries as such is going to be disrupted by this new kind of crowdfunding technology, right?
What is it about Switzerland that makes it a great place for ICOs? Because I guess there's still a lot of uncertainty around this topic, but there must be a few factors of why people are entrusting Switzerland with this and why Switzerland is allowing it here, right? Maybe, Danny, can you say a few words about that?
Well, from my professional work, of course, it's always a bit the same criteria that both attracts crypto funds to come here, set up shop, that attracts, ICOs to happen here, but most generally fintechs to come here. It's a very strong geopolitical stability we have here. It's the brand Switzerland that carries and can add value just by being here. But it's also, let's not forget, just a great hotspot of a lot of talented people that really know their things. There's strong academia. There's very strong and big companies here who like to engage, with that new ecosystem. So actually we have a lot of going for Switzerland, and also we have very strong associations. We have our association, and so everyone is working in the same direction, and politicians and also the regulator are really ramping up on that side as well. So that's probably what makes Switzerland so attractive from the outside.
Olga, you mentioned Xapo earlier. What was it that really helped Xapo choose Switzerland? Because I'm sure they had many jurisdictions in mind.
Well, I think, Xapo is basically one of the several companies that were looking for, for the place, for the country where, where regulator can catch up with technology development. Mm-hmm. And this catch up, it's kind of like if you're large, state like US or European Union, and there are so many things going on with technology, it's very hard for regulators around the world to move quickly, right? And this is where, smaller countries like UK, like Singapore, like Switzerland have an advantage because they can see, okay, so that's new, that is coming, this is a new business model, and they can adapt and move much faster, right? Mm-hmm. And this is, where I see Switzerland is going further down as probably one of the major winners of this fintech regulatory competition running on the global scale, right? Because I believe we definitely showed up to now that we are fast, we are moving forward, we are open, right? And that's going to hopefully be the same in the future.
So the little Switzerland is punching above its weight and really competing at the forefront of this internationally then, really.
Exactly.
I also wanted to ask you both exactly that. What's the international perspective on the blockchain community now, and how does Switzerland fit into that? Do you see a lot of cross-border teams being built, cross-border investment? Are there kind of flows back and forth or hubs that you're working a lot with?
Well, I can maybe start with our company. I mean, obviously there's currently a shortage of blockchain experts and people who can really work with the technology, which is why we have organized ourselves, of course, with centers of excellence. So we have certain geographies that are ramping up specific skills in blockchain. And I think this is what we see if we look around the world. There's some places that do more one route, others maybe Switzerland goes more into blockchain for financial services, for funds, for ICOs. So I think that's our sweet spot here. And I wanted to add what you just said before, that one thing that makes Switzerland particularly exciting is if I'm a new fintech, let's say in financial services, I may have a very cool technology, I may have a lot of great ideas, but ultimately I will need certain capabilities, classic things. It's not like everything is obsolete and everything is new. So classic things like, how do you engage with the institutional clients? How do you do risk and compliance? How do you run the middle office? How do you do the back office, etc.? All these capabilities and skills, we have them here in abundance in Switzerland, thanks to our industry that has been evolving over decades. And if you combine that know-how with kind of the new and maybe wild, blockchain and digital-only banks that are now all looking at Switzerland, I think that's a very powerful combination, and you don't find that all around the world, right? I mean, this is quite a unique place if you look at the financial services, both insurance, banking, wealth management, private banking.
Yes, and this is particularly true for blockchain businesses, because if you think about it, what is blockchain? What is Bitcoin? It is basically, technology that is global by default, right? But how does it translate into real businesses, into fintechs? In fintech world, in financial services world, is everything local by law, right? So if we talk about what are the most exciting topics, tokenization of real assets, funding over the blockchain, those are all the things that are normally regulated on a very local level, right? But with that technology, with the blockchain, we have a chance to create the real global. So how do we, where is the bridge between this, global by nature technology and local by nature regulation? And I truly believe, that it needs to be established in the countries that have this, history of being very open to new developments, but also a history of being small, local, but at the same time global. And this is exactly what we had with wealth management, with private banking a while ago.
It's starting to sound familiar, I guess.
Exactly, I mean, of course, there are many sides to that phenomenon also, but Swiss offshore banking, that was actually, for all the last several hundred years, kind of business that is very local here, but at the same time that is absolutely global and present in all the countries. So we need basically to think about very carefully about, what's happening. Switzerland is moving forward in wealth management. It's becoming, more oriented on international standards. It's accepted, all the different international standards in terms of automatic information exchange, right? So this whole topic of, tax specific structure, this is going away. So we need to ask ourselves a question. So what is next? How do we? And I truly believe, that this stability and security, plus technology, plus open regulation, that can help us to create a completely new proposition, for safe and secure storage of wealth, of assets, for crypto-based finance. And I very much hope it's going to be Switzerland that's going to be the hub for that business.
Excellent. Well, why don't I lead into a question with that as well? Can you tell us how your company, Smart Valor, is playing a role in all of that?
Well, that's exactly, what is so central to our business model. With Bitcoin, we've seen completely new way how finance can work. What is different with Bitcoin is that, it's global, it's accessible 24/7, you can trade anytime and everybody has an access, right? And no state can prohibit any operation, right? So, kind of like people are getting feeling, people in developing countries, in China, oh, that's how investment could feel and look like, right? It's very appealing, in comparison to what we've had before, right? So that the only way to have a secure assets was, if you're very rich and you can have a private banker in Switzerland. I mean, that was very privileged business. So now this new finance is accessible to everybody. So we asked ourselves a question, okay, so Bitcoin was the first step. What's next? And I truly believe the next is, a new platform, so to say, on the global scale that will enable same kind of investment in terms of accessibility and liquidity and so on, but in all the different asset classes.
Okay.
So here we are talking about tokenized real estate, tokenized venture capital, tokenized private equity. So all the, in particular, everything that is around alternative investment solution.
Right.
If you put it on the technology which is behind Bitcoin, blockchain, right, we can have a much more innovative, accessible, and better financial marketplace, right? And why not in Switzerland,
So to ask a really simple question then, does your name imply smart as in smart contracts and valor as in sort of
security.
tagging of securities then?
Yeah,
so really
valor in German is security, right?
So it's really that sort of tokenization of all securities.
Exactly. And, apart from, just taking a huge investment like private equity stake or whatever and cutting it into pieces, making it more accessible and more liquid because it can be traded in the secondary market. The other side is that, we can create completely new structures, which are built on smart contract logic, right? And of course, the biggest advantage is that the whole thing can be much more efficient and cheap and, available 24/7. And that is, I think, the big chance also for Switzerland to build on this, growing demand from developing countries, from this emerging and wealthy,
Right.
who are maybe not 5 million heavy, but they still want to have a safe offshore assets, not for tax reasons, just for safety, and to have an opportunity to diversify also with lower portfolios.
Well, we'll have to invite you back because that will be definitely a topic we want to explore further, the whole emerging markets and the market opportunity there for Swiss startups. But I wanted to make sure we asked you before you left, where does the company stand right now? Are you looking for clients, looking for investors?
Well, basically, our current state is that we finished, the technical prototype and the concept, right? And we're in the process of applying for, financial licenses that are needed for this business. And the big help is, of course, the fintech license, which is coming out here in Switzerland next year. That is, for that business, this is just a prerequisite, because otherwise, applying for a bank license and having just 10 million, as a minimal capital requirement would be a showstopper, right? So finally now, this is for the first time in the history, we are able to build such a great new, completely revolutionary business models, right? Without having, a huge amount of capital and backing. But so that's a big part of it, and the next step would be to figure out how we can, scale up and involve as many clients from emerging markets as possible.
Excellent. So you really have your heads down and you're building this right now.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to catch up then in the future and hear how things have developed. Thank you so much. I wanted to finish off, Danny, and quickly get your thoughts about the future and also ask you how PwC Strategy and is playing a role.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We are a very large organization, right? PwC stands for some of the founders. PricewaterhouseCoopers, Strategy and stands for strategy, But obviously in the fintech space and also in the future, I think we're a professional service firm. So we're going to serve our clients, whether large or small, across multiple angles on blockchain. So I see there's an angle around assurance. That's going to be very critical. Are the right protocols in place? How is the key management being handled? And that's where a large brand can provide a lot of trust. But equally, cybersecurity. A couple of the negative news we had around ICOs, where people appropriated tokens they shouldn't. We have cybersecurity specialists who've been around the block for decades and are up to the latest technology. I think it needs to professionalize, the whole scene. And then you need lawyers, you need tax experts, you need technology guys. So I think that's where as a firm we will probably play a role of being, a helper, a supporter. Maybe in some angles, maybe some companies will come to us as a one-stop shop. And I'm currently privileged to be kind of the fintech leader for Switzerland. I'm in a close network with all the other fintech leaders around the world. We have a lot of exchange. We also use, modern social media, of course, to get us always up to date. And it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time for me, coming as a financial services consultant into a time where it's really about digital. And I think those who haven't woken up and smelled the coffee and really realized that the industry is going to change will do so in very, very shortly. So thanks for inviting us. I think it was a great discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. I guess we want to end off today just with a quick message. As you've heard, it's a vibrant, dynamic, diverse community. It's a story that we'll continue to come back and tell you in future episodes. So we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks very much.